London, 2 British citizens remained in critical condition Saturday, breathing with the assistance of ventilators and surrounded by the world's leading experts on Novichok poisoning, in a case being watched closely by Britain and Russia. And late Saturday, a local police officer was being treated at the same hospital in connection with the investigation, police and hospital officials said. The couple, Don Sturgis, 44, and Charlie Rowley, 45, was exposed a week ago to traces of a Soviet-developed nerve agent, most likely, analysts say, by picking up a vial ampule discarded by a would-be assassin who took to Salisbury, in southern England, months ago to target a Russian former spy. A police statement on Friday said that officials were working to support their next of kin. Toxicologists say that the first days after a poisoning are a crucial threshold for survival, as the body struggles to resynthesize an enzyme, acetylcholinesterase, which is inhibited by nerve agents. Novichok is believed to directly affect the brain's respiratory centers, and considerable time may pass before a patient can breathe on his or her own. Sturgis and Rowley were in treatment after years of substance abuse, an ordeal that compromises the liver's function as the body's detoxifier, making them more physically fragile than the 3 previous victims, the former spy, Sergei V. Skripal, his daughter, Yulia Skripal, and a British police officer who became sick after responding to the poisoning in Salisbury. Few details were released on the officer hospitalized Saturday, including the officer's condition. Scores of investigators have been working on the new case, cordoning off areas that Sturgis and Rowley had been in the hours before they fell ill, officials said. The officer was undergoing tests at Salisbury District Hospital, the same institution that is treating Sturgis and Rowley and that cared for the Skripals. The hospital, in Salisbury, has the most expertise in the world in dealing with people with this type of poisoning, but it very much depends on the state of the individual, said Alistair Hay, an emeritus professor of toxicology at the University of Leeds, England. The fact that someone is frailer makes it more difficult, makes the outlook a little more bleak. He said the couple's prospects for survival were much more problematic, I think, given their overall state. If either of the two dies, on a diplomatic level it would present British and Russian authorities with a new scenario. Among the great surprises of the March attack on Skripal and his daughter is that they did not die, most likely because they received a relatively small dosage. The police officer, Detective Sergeant Nix Bailey, also got better. Their recoveries meant the attack fell off the front pages, allowing investigators to proceed with a slow, methodical search for evidence that might support their leading theory, that Russian agents were behind the attack. The emergence of additional victims will give it a renewed sense of urgency, particularly if one of them succumbs, said James Nixie, head of the Russia-Eurasia program at Chatham House, a research group in London. The spines were weakening, Nixie said of British authorities, and if there are new crimes or misdemeanors on the part of the Russian state, then it means that those spines can be re-stiffened. If either victim dies, he added, it becomes a murder investigation, and it's involving a British national rather than a Russian national. Scientific knowledge about Novichok poisoning was close to zero in March, when the Skripals and Bailey fell ill, and medical staff members expected them to die, they told the BBC in May. A paper published in May in the scientific journal Clinical Toxicology noted that while a large dose of a nerve agent could kill a patient within minutes, mild or moderately exposed individuals usually recover completely. Story can end here. Optional material follows. Rowley's symptoms were observed more closely than those of Sturgis, because a friend, Sam Hobson, was with him at the time. Hobson described symptoms that progressed over a period of hours, beginning with profuse sweating and fever, then hallucination and dribbling. Each of the 2 recent victims had long histories of addiction. Sturgis referred to her troubles with drinking in wry Facebook posts, writing in 2016 that, after one spree, she was not sure how she had reached her room at John Baker House, a supported living facility in Salisbury that houses many people with drug and alcohol problems. She thanked her mother for feeding her when she was sick. Love her, she knows how to mend me when I'm lost and low, Sturgis wrote. Her posts brightened in February of 2017, when she began her relationship with Rowley, a recovering heroin addict who rented an apartment in Amesbury, 8 miles away. "Fell in love, never bodes well for me," she wrote. "I trust Charlie with my life and he gets me the best gifts ever." But Becca Stewart, 20, who lived next door to Rowley in Amesbury, said Sturgis had become painfully thin, and that she sometimes saw her walking in the neighborhood stumbling all over the place. The police on Friday released a detailed timeline of the couple's movements on June 30th and July 1st, leading up to their hospitalization. They may have picked up the contaminated object in Queen Elizabeth Gardens, where they relaxed that afternoon before returning to Sturgis' room at the shelter and then to Rowley's apartment. Both residences became elaborate crime scenes Friday, and investigators in protective suits have been seen entering. Rowley's brother, Matthew, said he had learned of the poisoning from a friend who heard it on the news. "He's my younger brother. I loved him to bits. I wouldn't want anything to happen to him, and yet it has," Matthew Rowley told the BBC. "How would you deal with it? It's heartbreaking, really is." Story ID, F7 to 6258 C1 F6 4124 B0511 F0957 E8 C1 B4 Category, I sent, July 7, 2018 18:24 and 18 seconds, EDT. This content appears as provided to the Globe by the originating wire service. It has not been edited by Globe staff.